I think we are live. Hey everyone, welcome to yet another session of the TestMu Conference 2026. Hope you're enjoying all the sessions and having a great learning experience. I am 𝐒𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐧𝐢𝐯, Associate Director Marketing here at TestMu AI, and I will be your host for this workshop session. Today, we are diving into debugging with Appium MCP, a topic that sits at the intersection of AI and mobile automation. And in this workshop, we will see how the MCP transforms Appium from a traditional automation framework into an AI native testing platform, one that understands natural language commands and intelligently interacts with your mobile apps. And for this session, I'm delighted that we have not one, but two incredible speakers, and they are from our own home turf. Srinivasan Sekar is a Director of Engineering at TestMu AI, an Appium member and a contributor to open source projects like Selenium, WebdriverIO, and Tycho. Joining him is Sai Krishna, also a Director of Engineering at TestMu AI, an active Appium contributor and member of the Appium organization. And in this workshop, Srini and Sai will walk us through how MCP enables AI agents to safely control Appium test sessions, live demos, automatic test code generation, MCP to MCP communication, and some best practices. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we will address them during the Q&A session at the end. And do share your favorite moment from this session on the social media with the hashtag TestMuConf. So please join me in welcoming Srinivasan Sekar and Sai Krishna. Srini and Sai, over to you.
Thanks, Shazad. Hi, everyone.
Hey, everyone. So I'll probably skip our own intro because Shazad, you gave us a very cool intro about us, what we're doing and stuff. So probably we'll just jump in, look through it. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay. So let's like this. Okay, Srini, let's talk about Appium MCP and how we built it, why we built it, why we took so long, and how our MCP is different to any of the other. Probably the community does have a lot of Appium similar kind of MCPs, and why the officially done MCP is better and a lot of things, right?
Yeah, awesome. So I hope everyone understands or at least heard about what MCP is, or at least the term MCP. So Model Context Protocol is a single protocol which consists of tools, resources, and prompts. So let's understand what's an MCP before getting into how we could connect it and how many we could connect it and so on, right? So it's an open standard that helps agents to AI models to talk to external tools or external resources with very well structured inputs and outputs, like how we have a universal API for an AI agent. Like I usually say as USB Type-C connectors for AI agents to talk to different tools and resources we have in Lifecycle, right? Agents Lifecycle. So we have one protocol which follows this client-server architecture. So people build a lot of MCP servers. So we access those MCP servers with different tools like Claude Code, Cursor, Client, Repos, and a lot more, right? So first, server advertises list of capabilities it has to the MCP client like Claude Code, Cursor, or CLI. And the server can be anything. It could be your Playwright MCP server, which advertises list of capabilities that Playwright MCP server has. Likewise, Appium MCP server, which should advertise to MCP client. These are the capabilities I have upfront. And let's say some of those capabilities could be some gestures, for example, right? And some other capability could be search on different kinds of documentation and get me certain details that I need, right? As a user, I need. So likewise, it advertises all these capabilities back to the MCP client, and the MCP client is smart enough to, and the model behind The client is smart enough to figure out when to use what. And we can also dynamically, it is also smart enough. Now the clients are also smart enough to figure out or load MCP tools dynamically rather than keeping everything in memory and so on, right? So Claude Code kind of loads only when it is required. So it doesn't load everything. Let's say I have a tool, I have an MCP server that lists 80 plus tools, which is a bad practice to have those many tools. We'll come to that. But irrespective of it, Claude Code is smarter and smarter, and it loads those tools and resources dynamically and uses it only when it is required, right? So, and there is also two ways to publish an MCP server, which is standard input-output, which is the stdio way, and two is the Streamable HTTP server. The one that we have recently is also the stateless MCP servers, right? So if you release, probably we might also need to take care of authentication. Probably, let's say if it is hosted in an environment, it also requires authentication. So we have built something called Appium MCP that handles authentication. Probably you can check our GitHubs and you will find it as well, right? So now that we have seen these tools can have those many MCP servers. We have Appium 1 that talks to Android, iOS, Mac, and so on, real devices, simulators, and so on. So the Claude Code can also talk to multiple other MCP servers as well in parallel, such as GitHub MCP server or the file system MCP server and so on, right? So it is, again, as I said, it is smart enough to handle those. One of the reasons initially people try to ignore MCP server was having too many tools as well. We'll come back to the best practices pretty much little later as part of this workshop. So now that we have seen one protocol, many tools, so now let's talk about how Appium MCP server has been built, right? So the main motto behind this Appium MCP server is to help community and help community in a better way. So we have been building Appium for more than a decade now, and even before 1.x came in place, me and Sai are engaged on Appium, building Appium server and managing Appium Java client for quite some time now. And as we are traveling with Appium as a community, we know the pain points of the community. One of the hardest thing probably is the documentation, which is something that is scattered across. We do have 100 plus repositories, or even if we say 10 or 15 that is quite active and required. So documentation is scattered enough, and we also have released multiple versions. So even we have checked one of the incident that we have checked yesterday on Google, which is 3.1, which is ranked higher than the latest version as well, right? So given that we have so many versions, and if you go for our own Stack Overflow, which is the Appium Discuss Forum, it also has a bunch of things specific to specific versions as well. People would have addressed it in different versions in a different way, right?
Yeah.
So is there any best way to help people? Is basically bringing those documentation inside the MCP server. That's one best way. So I can just type, ask my MCP server, what should I do next? And probably my agent is also smart enough to get those answers and do those things for me. That's one way. And two is basically, let's say I've been executing things in parallel and it keeps failing. Or for example, building the WebdriverAgent for iOS. It's one of the hardest things.
Actually,
and still at times I fail, right? So that's also another reason why we have made it pretty simple inside our Appium MCP server, like signing and installing the WebdriverAgent and making your iOS device ready, right? That's one. And let's say my test execution fails, and how can I debug it, right? So the agents do have public data that it has been trained on, though, but it is easier to debug and fix it if it has all those tools, those Smith Army knife baked on Appium to get things done in a much smarter way, right?
And the correct way
As well, right? So it can also, one of the hardest part, we spend time rather than spending time on writing, figuring out the best scenarios to automate. We spend time on maintaining the tests, right? which is basically generating locators, identifying, and then probably we'll juggle with our developers as well at times to see, hey, can we add accessibility identifiers so it's easy for me to identify the elements uniquely. So we spend time unnecessarily. So that's also another place where we have improved Appium MCP server a lot in terms of generating locator strategy, just as the locator strategies, and we have ranked which is the best locator strategy that we can pick in a mobile screen for different elements. So it can generate locator strategies for you. So you can focus on writing the best test, right? And again, it can perform a lot of gestures. One of the complex part of mobile test automation is also performing gestures. So what if, gestures has its own history for years in Appium, right from touch actions to evolving to Appium's Actions API and performing different complex gestures using Actions API. And again, still writing those on different clients, Appium clients like Java client and so on. Sometimes it could be a little trickier to do the best justice to the gestures, right? So what if my MCP server writes it for me? I just say,
it's like nothing, right?
Right. So what if it writes it for me, right? So likewise, we have tons of features baked into just 33 tools or so. So we can see why this 33 tools. So right now we have talked a lot about what are the features we have we ship as part of MCP server. Now let's also talk about how we do it. So Appium, as we all know, it follows client-server architecture. So Appium server has to be spun up, and then we write test in Java client, Ruby client, and WebdriverIO, and so on, right? So we do have a bunch of clients. Now, what if I don't spin up my server and I baked in my drivers that drives my real devices and emulators, right? So we have baked in UI Automated 2 driver for local execution, XUI driver for local execution. So you don't have to spin up any Appium MCP server at all, right? So just give Appium MCP to Cloud Code, it does the rest of things. And internally, it is Appium drivers that is being reused here. And let's say I wanted to execute my tests on a real device on local. Under the hood, it uses UI Automated 2 drivers installed on your machine. And if I wanted to do the same on cloud, like TestMu AI cloud, for example, right? So we spin up, we use the Appium server, and then we use grid mechanism to run it on remote machines and so on, right? So there is no standalone server requirement required for you to install it and drive it, and everything is taken care of Appium MCP through the drivers that are natively available as part of the packaging itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think with that said, maybe Srini, we can jump in and look through how to configure the MCP and things, right? And also, folks, what we can also do is, we'll just give a pause here and there, comment, look through the Q&A. So please keep dropping your Q&A. We'll keep it interactive in between the sessions to go pick some of the questions, and then we can maybe answer. So maybe like every 10-15 minutes, we'll just come back, look into the Q&A. If there's something that we can just pick it up, right? So we can do something like that, right, Srini?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So let's go.
So we're going to use Visual Studio Code.
Yeah, we use VS Code. I also have Claude Code here. And I just wanted to, you can use any of the coding agents, doesn't matter. We just picked up Claude Code.
Even the VS Codes.
Yeah, Copilot. You can use Copilot or whatever, right? Your comfort, you can choose that. And the first aspect, like Srini was telling us, we need to add the MCP, right? So, Srini, let's go ahead and add the MCP.
Well, we can just say /MCP.
Okay.
And it is this whatever
MCP
we have added already. So we could see Appium MCP is already added.
How was this added here, Srini? How did we get this here? So let's take people through that, right?
So we do have .mcp.json file at the root of the folder.
So if you see here, right? So we have this.
Yeah, and so then it takes that. You could see that we are running it in, we talked about two modes, right? Yes, standard input output, streamable HTTP, SSE as well, historically, right? So standard input output is basically running the process inside your own machine. The type is standard input output, and we download it, the Appium MCP latest from the NPM.
Yeah.
And we have also assigned Android Home.
Yeah.
And the other interesting bit is Appium MCP docs, which is enabled to, which is an add-on package, as we can say. Only if we enable it, you get this package as part of, basically you get additional tools as part of Appium MCP. Can we also see the list of tools we have? I think we talked about 30 plus tools available.
Yes. So once we connect to this, when we go into this, we could see roughly about 33 tools, right? And I mean, before we jump in here, Srini, I just probably want to also add, like when Srini was talking about the Appium MCP docs enabled, right? I think Srini, we should also cover very importantly is why we are trying to enable it and disable it, and what's the kind of mechanism that we have added behind this MCP docs, right? I mean, why we need additional capabilities or installations to do that, and why can't it be as a part of MCP? Right?
So it's also that we ship documentation every now and then, and whenever we ship, we also need to ship an MCP server. We keeps updating it. Probably some people may not require MCP Appium documentation in itself. They probably are familiar enough about Appium, and they just wanted to use Appium MCP server to drive their test. Right? So we can enable and disable it if you don't need, let's say, if you don't need any help from the documentation in itself.
Yeah. And also from a package size perspective, we wanted to move this out because because the Appium documentation is so scattered and is so large, and the way we bring that in is we implement this space of ragging, right? So we rag it, we chunk it. So definitely there is the package size getting increased. So we also don't want
to. We also have
right?
done a lot of optimization in terms of shipping this.
Yeah.
So of course it shouldn't hurt you a lot in terms of spice. In terms of the size.
Yeah.
But definitely an additional tool requirement. Lesser the tools, it's amazing for the agents to decide on. So maybe whenever required, add it and then disable it.
Right.
Yes.
And so we
also have this
33
tools. So the reason, I think when we started sometime last year, we started this, of course, if you know where it started, it's something that we have started building this as part of a lightning talk in Selenium Conf. And then over a period of time, last year, we had around 80 plus tools, which is an anti-pattern. And then we have drilled down and reduced it. And we have also seen a lot of MCP servers available in market. Every API they ship an MCP server. They ship a tool inside that MCP server, which is a very, very worst, and it's a worst way of shipping something as part of MCP server.
And also it's an anti-pattern.
Anti-pattern as well. So the way how we should ship tools as part of MCP server is basically based on user's intent. So let's say swipe is a gesture. Scroll, double tap, we do have tons of gestures, right? You can build as much complex gestures as possible. So what if the user intent is gesture? The type of gestures can be anything. So we can't have so many gestures in point. Basically, we may have so many gestures in point, but performing those gestures is basically the user intent. So we can have just one tool that describes about Appium gesture.
Yeah, and that's exactly how we also designed the entire MCP to bring it down. And for example, if you see over here, the gesture, right? So we have gesture. Nowhere in the list we could basically see scroll up, scroll down, right, left, and double tap and things like that, because all of that are basically gestures. The intent is a gesture. So the way we have designed, like Srini said, is everything is baking into it.
You can just say swipe left to right, and the Appium _ gesture tool can handle it. And if you would like to build your own gesture, we also have the perform actions, which can do your own gestures. In case if you would like to build W3C actions API gestures, then it can also do that.
Also, this reminds me of another aspect when Srini is bringing this concept of building on your own, right? So as a part of Appium MCP package, we also have capabilities to build an Appium MCP plugin, right? What that means is, so we have 33 tools that is listed, right? Let's say you want to also add another tool as to a part of it. but you basically want to share a lot of the common factors from the root, Appium MCP. So in those cases, you can also basically create a plugin and add your own tooling as a part of this remaining 33, right? And that's exactly how the Appium MCP auth was built. So actually, the Appium MCP auth repository is not managed by the Appium team, but it is managed by me and Srini. So we build that plugin on the same concepts, right? And that's again needed when you are running the MCP in SSE, right? As a streamable HTTP server somewhere remotely, and we want to keep it secure, right? So that's a good example for people to go refer when it comes to building Appium MCP plugins as well. I think with further, can we go look into it, Srini? So what we'll do is I'll just go tell, just to see if this connector is actually working fine. What we can actually basically go tell, Claude Code
is available in Appium.
Yeah, we can do that. List all the tools that are present in the
Appium MCP
server.
Yeah.
Let's see what it can do. Whether it's listing what we actually have to say that, right?
Meanwhile, if you have any questions, feel free to drop your questions. We will come back in between.
And see is it possible. So it's pulling the tool definitions. If there's any questions, then maybe we can also look through it. Let me quickly go on and see if there's any questions over here. So you can use the Q&A space. Come in. Okay, so we have 2 questions, Srini. Is coming in. Okay, you see this. I'm going to again quickly look through this. So we have a device and session setup that talks about preparing an IO simulator, and also is very important, right? This one aspect where we talk about prepare IO's real device, right? A lot of people who was using this would know the pain of building an entire WDA. It's so painful
Building it.
Yeah.
Again,
Resigning
I'm still not a pro on building and signing and installing it. Always use this MCP server and tool that we have built to do this.
Because people might ask, right? I mean, how different is that building an IPA for real devices of the WebDriver agent? Because to be a very straightforward answer to that is, you can't build an IPA very straightforward because it's basically not an application. It's actually a test server, right? So from an Apple's way of building an IPA, from a framework perspective, you can only build it when it's an actual application, not a server. So there are a lot of other aspects that we do to build this IPA, resign it as well, so that you can use that on your real devices without letting Appium take over the entire Xcode build. And you would see a lot of errors that is happening with Xcode signing 65 errors and stuff like that. So I mean, that's a very, very important tool which helps people to at ease go ahead and resign stuff, right? And again, finding elements, inspecting page source, and you see from an interacting perspective what all is needed. So ideally then it's connected Srini for us now, right? So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to say open a specific app, right? So let's say we can say open the settings. We can do that. Open the settings app using the Appium MCP server. Let's see what it can do, right? What kind of tool it will call to achieve this goal, right? And this is something very important when these tools are being built as a part of this MCP. You need to have it with the right description, right goal. Only then these agents can basically understand and sort of pull them. Okay, you see it went ahead and it's doing a select device. So it basically called a select device for us over here as a tool. So, and it also created an Appium session. So it's managing the Appium session, which just got created for us. That's very, very nice. And you see basically understood what we really want to do. And let it just finish and we can run you through what exactly happened, right? So it's done. It's also inspecting by taking screenshots and stuff like that. Okay, that is. So let's go and see what actions did it perform over here. So I just said open the settings app over here, right? Using the Appium MCP server. it went ahead, understood what are the tools, and then basically understood, okay, the first tool that I need to pick is, basically I want to select the device, right? And how did it decide to pick an Android is basically because we don't have an iOS device connected, nor an emulator, a simulator running. So it just picked an emulator which is already booted. You can also explicitly tell that, hey, I would basically want this to happen on an
Android specific iOS specific simulators as well.
Right. And then if you see, it has created the session. So you basically have a session created. So that's like a session ID that you have. And then also we asked it to start off the settings app, right? So if you look through it, it understood that to start the session app, it needs an package name. So it went ahead and brought it up, and it pulled up a next tool, which is the Appium's app lifecycle. Right? So if you look through it from a usability angle, it's more of activating the app. We never called an Appium activate app, but we called an Appium app lifecycle. So this is the intent based, right? It called that specific tool, and now it knows what is the intent over here. The intent over here is to open a specific app, right? So that's so under the hood, the Appium lifecycle will do a lot of things from an intent perspective. And once that is done, and if you see on a whole, the settings app is open on the emulator, it also validated it, and etc. Right? So that means the MCP has been configured correctly, and it also works from an end-to-end perspective. Right? Okay, I'll just give a pause here. Srini, if there's any questions, we can
relatively questions. Maybe I could pick one. So could MCP-based Appium automation eventually move mobile testing from predefined test cases towards autonomous exploration? And what would be required to make that reliable?
Right? So maybe we'll park that.
This
will come in the end.
We do have quite a few things apart from MCP server. So we have built something called AppCla. So we will talk about the reliability when we are talking about Appium, AppCla, etc. Right? So next question is, how would you manage authentication, test data, and sensitive information when using Claude AI for mobile automation? So probably something that comes on top of my mind. So you don't have to use Claude. Let's say you are super concerned about any LLMs for that matters. So you can bring your own, you can spin up your own open models on, let's say, your own machine, and use the same model that is up and running on your machine. Probably it could be 𝐒𝐤, for example, right? So, and then provide the token in any of the MCP server and use it along with it. So data just retains on your own machine. It doesn't go outside.
Okay. So we'll take one more question, Srini, and then we'll fall back and then again come back. Okay.
How can MCP server change the architecture of mobile test automation by allowing AI agents to interact with the Appium and Rebel devices as standardized tools? Right. The architecture of mobile test automation is something I would say it's evolving a lot. If you are using agentic solutions like AppCla, for example, right? So it's completely open source. Feel free to take inspiration from there and build something on top of it. That talks a lot about how you can drive your mobile apps, right? So, and then not just driving it, it also helps you to verify certain things reliably. And there were a lot of concerns when we have posted this on social media. Hey, token consumption is going to shoot up and so on. There are a lot of wonderful models that you can spin up on your local, and we have done tons of optimizations to ensure that it consumes lesser tokens. We have done a lot of exercises combining Appium MCP with Claude Code and Appium MCP with AppCla, and the number of token consumed is damn lesser, I would say. And we have done a lot of context engineering principles to ensure that it is super reliable.
Maybe a very good example to add over there. If you see when we ran even this one example over here, right? So eventually what happened was it basically took like 2-3 screenshots at a PNG level for it to validate, right? Now, basically now what Claude's doing is when it's taking these screen grabs, directly takes from Appium, and Appium gives you a PNG, which is the higher resolution, right? And now when these kind of heavy images getting into that session to validate, so basically, let's say in our experience, we have seen it burn. We have seen it taking roughly about 13 to 14,000 tokens.
Again, taking it on a Mac machine with a proper, wonderful simulators, it's going to be super high. So,
and now at the same time, now it's pretty heavy, right? So you want to like incorporate about 13K to 14K tokens. But the same with optimized approach with the agents that you could build, it can possibly be like roughly about 2,000 tokens, right? Or slightly lesser than that, right? So these are the things.
It's going to be much faster
as well, right? In terms of responding. And so we'll talk a bit more about these angles when we touch base the app clock perspective, right? Okay, keep flowing your questions. It's really, I see a lot of really good ones. So we'll pick some of them. Maybe Srini, once we answered any of those, we can close it as answered live, right? So that we know what we have answered and what we have to keep it for app. At the end, we can still read it. Right? Okay, so that's that. So the next thing that I really want to do is I'll just run you through the repository that we have over here. So it's a basic TypeScript repository. We have added WebdriverIO, and we're considering WebdriverIO as an example that we want to show today. And I also have the WDIO config over here. Nothing fancy. It's as normal WebDriver config, which basically has a sample WebdriverIO app and the configure. That's pretty much. There's nothing much to talk about this. It's a very basic WDIO config. And this has nothing to do with Appium MCP. I mean, we're just taking this as a project, so you can have your project in Java client. I mean, of course, your Java, .NET, Python, Ruby, any of these doesn't really.
Again, we are not talking about the best practices that you need to follow. This is just a simple sample project that we have.
Exactly. And again, we're just considering to use that for our session today. So what I'm going to do now is, I think the first step that we want to do, generally that we have heard from the community, that something is very time consuming is all about inspecting these elements, getting those elements, and then, adding them into our test frameworks, and then writing these tests. Right? So writing the test is still the secondary, but inspecting and all of that is very time consuming. So what we'll actually do is we'll basically go ahead. So I have this WebdriverIO app installed. So we'll use the WebdriverIO app. And this is basically a emulator running behind the scene. I'm just streaming it out, and it's an extension. So what we'll do is we'll open this. We'll gather all the locators here. So we'll go to login. We'll try to enter username, password, click on the login. And then for this entire flow, I basically need all the elements to be captured for me, right? That's something that I really want to do. So what we're going to tell, Claude over here, or any agent for that perspective is, so we're going to say open WebdriverIO app and
get locators on.
I can say this right, Srini, get the locators for the screen, for the home screen.
Okay.
Login screen, and also a success login screen. Right, so I'll just say that. Let's see what happens over here, right? And now we are basically telling the agent this is the goal that I want to achieve, and it is basically going to drive everything with Appium MCP on the tools and etc. etc. So let's see what is going to happen now. See, it's so smart. It said the app is already in foreground. It didn't go to again. Try to activate it, terminate it, and based on a lot of our time, right? Exactly. Okay, so we clicked on it. So I believe it has already gathered the first locators that is needed for the first screen. So let's wait that and watch when it basically does something.
So should I really enter something?
Yeah, it should ideally enter something, and I've also not told the username and password. So let's see what it can basically do. So yeah, it basically found all the locators. Okay, it just did some test at WebdriverIO, which is also cool. It just cooked up something, because since we have not told what to do, but I also told that I want to get to a successful login, right? Okay, so it did that. Okay, so you see it's calling this generate locators as in a tool which can basically do. Okay, cool. So we have done a bunch of things over
It
here.
also did say the failed locator, failed login, or something on the top.
Where, Srini? Where did you observe that?
Just that. Appium alert, failed alert action, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
No alert is present on the screen.
So that means this is not, it looks like an alert, but not an alert. Probably it's another type of a component. Maybe the app is built, right? Which is fine. So let's see what it did now. A bunch of things now, right? It took the home screen, it said there's a screen container and etc. etc. So best locator, alternate locator. Okay, so that's a cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
So based on what it is there, it's also done this.
And this is also because of the way we have built that specific get locator tool in itself. We have given certain ranking that it has to identify and list as the best locator first.
Yeah, and see a bunch of things it has already done for the login screen, right? Which is cool. So biometric hint and etc. etc. Login success dialog. It has actually picked all that. And this session is still alive and the app is currently showing a success dialog. Okay, blah blah blah. I noticed this. Deleting is a working tree. If you want, I can regenerate those modules and stuff. So let's see what has happened here, right? So it basically didn't generate any of those. So what I want to say is, generate all these locators and some as a TypeScript and also the test. Also the test for this journey. Okay, let's see what it can do now. Okay, I'll match repo existing conventions. So let me look. Okay, it's trying to do something.
Meanwhile, we can
take some questions because it's going to do some job.
Yeah.
So we'll from it do.
So my last question is, do you see Appium plus MCP combined with models like Claude becoming a foundation for autonomous mobile QA agents? If Claude can reason over application context to interact with real devices through Appium MCP and autonomously generate, execute, analyze, test, what do you think will be the biggest challenge to making this reliable at scale? AI reasoning, device control, test oracle, security, and ultimately trust.
A lot of questions.
So
we can break that down.
Yeah. So first is, do you see Appium plus MCP combined with models like Claude becoming a foundation for autonomous mobile QA agents? Of course, there are a lot. Not necessarily it has to be a Claude. It could be any best models that are available. And when we talk about models, there are two things. One is best reasoning models. One is vision-based models as well. So we will talk about those that works amazingly well in the current industry, with whatever models that are currently available during the conversation on AppCloud.
Yeah. And also, sorry, Srini, before you jump into the second part, and when Srini said, even from a model perspective, why a vision-based model is also so important from a reasoning aspect is because the biggest challenges that we have seen over years in the mobile space is, right, let it be a React Native. If an app is built on React Native or Flutter native, and now even in Android, things are moving towards Jetpack Compose and a lot of other things changing, right? So if the entire accessibility tree is not properly exposed, right, with the right locators, accessibility IDs, I mean, of course, we could say that the app's not testable, right? So now there are certain aspects that you basically want to also test, right? Let's say we can take this example to say that maybe there are a lot of icons in your application, right? In your app. Now, if you have vision-based, you can basically try to also validate those, right? Hey, just tell me if you could see like 5 hearts present next to X. I know text, right? So certain things that you can't locate and reason and validate on the locators, we can basically do a better assertion and better viewing and actions from the vision aspect. And that's where picking those models which are good in reasoning along with vision it's very important. Yeah. So the next one.
So if Claude can reason over application context, interact with real devices through Appium MCP, and autonomously generate, execute, analyze, what do you think will be the biggest challenge to make this reliable at scale, right? So I think that's where the context engineering principles comes in place in terms of handling the context better.
Yeah.
I would say, in terms of keeping the context grounded and ensuring the context drift doesn't happen. So it's also about how well the builder agent. I mean, I'm not comparing with any other agents available in market, right? So if you're using Appium MCP and building an Appium agent, probably it's pretty much easier, but making it reliable is the toughest part, right? So for that matters, it has to follow a lot of context engineering principles to ensure that the token consumption is less, context compaction happens, context pollution doesn't do over a period of time, and all these things has to be smartly handled. So that's the crux of it. Right. If you're too much concerned about security, we have models you can spin up on probably run pod or in your own local machine as well.
So it has done the job. Maybe we can look through it now and again come back to some of the other questions again. Okay, cool. So what it has done now, let's see. Okay, what did it do? So it went ahead, it basically wrote two things. I'll try to highlight here so it's visible to others, right? Now, what did it basically? Seems to me if you can, others can view it correctly. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so we have two things here. We have the locators and we have the specifications, right? Now let's go into the locator angle. What did it do from a locator perspective? Okay, so for all of that, I can see like good amount of files that is being generated. So let's go into one of these, right? So let's go into login success. What did it do from a login success perspective? That's a pretty cool stuff that it has done over here. Is you see, it has basically tagged it with login success text, title, message, button panel, OK button, right? So basically, whatever it could see over here, it has like sort of picked all those locators. And this is where Srini was talking about the ranking. Yeah, the best one, right? The ranking that we have done inside Appium MCP itself. When you're finding these locators, there are certain rankings that we have done for both Android as well as iOS. If it comes to iOS, it goes this way, right? It goes from, I don't remember top of mind, but I can just try to pick that up from my memory, right?
Available in documentation.
Yeah. Right. So it's more like accessibility. Then it comes to, so we'll try iOS, right? So it's going to be accessibility ID, then resource ID, then we
Class chain,
class chain, iOS predicates, then comes XPath, then comes class names and stuff. So there are some rankings that we have done. Based on that, only all of these locators would be basically be generated, right? So let's see if there's another one which it could have done something little different. Okay, that's a very good thing. 15th one, right? So if you look through this, right, for the login tab label, it went ahead with a deprecated aspect of UI Automated 2, which is the UI selector aspect. But at the same time, if you look through the same thing over here, you see these are all accessibility ID. So wherever it can pull out the best one, it pulls out that. And even from a biometric hint, it wanted to. Probably there is no other way. And if you look through this, it didn't write an XPath, right? But the XPath comes as the next one. So it just went ahead and wrote this locator, which it found it as the best ranking. Right? So which is good. So let's go.
And this is something we don't need to spend much time on in case of maintaining. Let's say tomorrow something breaks.
Yeah.
So we can always go back to Appium MCP and then fix it. It's going to pick the best one.
We'll also try that, Srini. It's a good point that you brought out. So we'll also try that as well, right? So I'll just quickly go into the spec files and see how the spec files are written, right? So it's written, a good test to say land on home screen after the launch. This is a useless test. I'm going to remove it, okay? I don't need to validate that aspect. It says open the login screen and the tab bar. So I want to take that full journey that it picked, so which is ideally this one, right? So we'll keep this and I'm going to remove all of the other aspects. So let's keep this one test and we'll just remove the other ones not needed. I'm just reducing noise over here for us to run and debug. Okay, let's do this test. So what is this test saying is, it's basically, entering the username, password, valid, title. So we're basically waiting for it to be displayed, which is a good thing. And then also there are some assertions to say that, okay, the login was a successful login. Now what I'm going to do is, let's go ahead and fail one of these, right? Because that's what Srini was talking about. It can do something. So I'll just do a quick failures. I'm just going to do something very weird. This locator, of course, is not present. And let's go ahead and run that test, right? So what we can do is, so I know I have to open my terminal to do the job, but I'll just run that script and I'm going to go back to this. So it's running. So it's starting Appium server, etc., etc. So let's see what happens now. Okay, so it can't find that input email 111222 because we just broke that locator. So this is what Srini was talking about when you are running these. So it just failed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take. Oops. So I'm just going
On
to.
a traditional way, what we would have done is
Yeah,
basically
tell that. I mean
inspect using any inspectors that are available, and then figure out, oh, this is the locator that has changed and so on, right? Or probably if you have the developers, the code base and access to the code base, probably we'll go ahead and reason on that code base and then get the response back and see as well, right? So these are things that we would have done. Probably if you would have the latest app on hand, just give it to Appium MCP server. Give it to an agent. It does the job for us.
Just say that doesn't matter. It's anyways going to do that. But yeah, so let's see what it can do now.
Can we take one question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Let it do. So can an Appium MCP server stream live device screenshots back to a vision language model so the agent can visually debug UI issues? So we do have Appium screenshot. It's a tool, so you can always invoke, the agent can always invoke that specific tool and handle those screenshots to the agent, and it can reason by seeing what's there not, and then help fix things.
Yeah. And again, if you want this to be done pretty seamlessly, instead of going with screenshots, there's another way to do is you could spin up. You can just tell Appium with the capability called as MJPEG server screenshot. So it will basically take screenshots in milliseconds. So for example, if it's a normal screenshot, it might take roughly about 200 to 250, 300 milliseconds. Yeah. But if it's streaming through this MJPEG server port, it would basically take roughly about 20 milliseconds. So you would see like 10 times faster response of these screenshots, lesser tokens, and also you can sort of reduce the size and do a lot of those things. Yes, definitely, yes. So we can take one more screen. It's actually fixing the locator, running it and doing things.
Appium MCP allow the coding agent to dynamically auto-heal broken locators in real time during a live test run.
I'm just trying to see, does Appium MCP allow the coding agents to dynamically auto-heal broken locators in real time
during a live test run?
That is a very risky aspect. We'll try. That's a guardrail, right? It can do. There's nothing that we can't do, right? So I would say we shouldn't do that, because if something is failing for a reason, like this locator,
need to know the proper reason
for the failure, right? Rather than it going and auto healing on its own.
So you have seen instances where it goes ahead, changes the code base, uses that mobile app and runs it locally. And instead of changing the screen, changing the locator on your local, it does change the app as well, right? Yeah. So play it around with your caution. Again, that's where the agent has to be smart enough, and you need to have better control over what it is doing.
Exactly, and that is the whole point, right? In fact, I say, if I look to the question again, does Appium MCP allow the coding agents to dynamically auto heal broken locators? Right now, there are two aspects to this. As an MCP server, we provide tools, right? Now, on top of that, you will have to either build that agent, or you instruct your agent, like Claude Code or any of these guys should be instructed to say, hey, if a test is failing, your job is to auto heal it by using MCP, Appium MCP, and that's exactly what we did now with the generate locators, right?
Yes. So what this MCP server brings is a Swiss Army knife, right? So it's all lies in the model and also the agent behind the scenes to ensure that what it is doing and which tool that it is actually using to do that. Right? So sometimes it may do ADB commands as well, which is not even part of the tools in itself. Not in part of the Appium MCP tools in itself. Right?
Yeah. And if you look through it, it has actually fixed it now, and it very clearly also talks about this, right? One was a broken locator. Of course, I intentionally changed that stuff to 1112222 something, right? And it went ahead and it wrote the right one, which is the input email for us, which is the right one, right? And if you see, it also found something called as missing navigation. I think this is where I was saying unwanted, I was deleting. It had a reusable code. and it found that, and it again rewrote that into our test, right? So let's go look into our test, how the test looks like now. And it's basically return it back now. And let's go, very important is I want to see the locator, right? Yeah, the locator is fixed as well. Okay, that's a good one to look through over here, right? Okay, now the next thing possibly that we want to do is, of course, we have this test, right? Now the next thing,
can we ask some questions to our MCP server?
Okay.
I mean, basically to our documentation query tool.
Yeah.
So what if I have a test and I would like to run it on multiple devices in parallel?
Okay.
Eventually, that is something that comes on top of my mind.
Okay.
And something that probably everyone would have tried whenever they wanted to run it.
Okay.
So what all I have to change? Maybe just give me the answer. Don't do any code changes.
Okay. So no code changes. We'll just figure out how to do.
How to
right?
do it.
Okay. So I'm gonna say.
So of course, the models available in market probably has all these informations. But if you ask me, we never know that we have 600 plus capabilities unless we asked our Appium MCP server, the documentation query tool to list all those tools, capabilities that we have. And it has shown us a lot of interesting stuff that we have, which we are never aware of. I don't think so even Michael would be aware of.
Right, let's see what it does, right? Okay, it says I'll query the Appium docs for UI automated to parallel session requirement, unique ports, etc. Right? And this is the part that at the beginning me and Srini were talking about, right? I know that it's going to like sort of jump a bit now, but I'll just pause over here and say. So if you see, it says found 25 relevant documentation chunks. Srini, do you want to like sort of add some salt, pepper to understand what are these? Okay, let it finish because it's jumping. I just want to highlight that aspect, right? Which is an aspect. That's this guy, right? The 25 relevant chunks, right? Okay.
So we did perform a RAG on our documentation that is scattered across multiple places, and then chunked it and provided everything. I mean, kept everything in a JSON file or so. And whenever we ask, the retriever will retrieve the relevant chunks that are relevant to the questions based on an algorithm. And those relevant chunks feeds back the answers to our LLM, which is in case is Claude here. It reasons it and provides a wonderful table column there.
Let's see what it did, right? And where did it bring this information for us? So it says what Appium doc says is it says the per session capability that must be unique and it for the parallel session. So it got it what is required for the real devices, of course the emulators as well, because I did ask that. And at the same time, what it also did was since we're using WebdriverIO as a framework, so it also said how we could basically implement this inside the WebdriverIO config, right? So it says okay, you can put devices of array with all of these, and it also says that okay, some of the device, I mean these are all the devices that I actually have in my machine, and then it instructs the entire stuff. How do you want to like sort of run that, right? And even if you see here, it says +1 because you need the different unique system ports, UI automator port, Chrome driver port, and etc., which is a good stuff. Maybe we also want to do another question.
Yeah.
What we can ask.
Cool. If an AI agent autonomously generate custom Appium touch gestures or scroll actions on the fly based on screen text, how do you enforce reliable wait conditions and synchronization to prevent race conditions during heavy network or rendering lag? Cool, great, wonderful question. So again, there could be multiple reasons why there could be a lag. It could be an application zone fault, or it could be the network. Again, it also depends upon how quickly you are taking that screenshot, and then how quickly the rendering, reasoning happens and perception and perceive, and then happens on top of it, right? So if there is any change, it's gonna again do that action as well. So
yeah, I think this is the aspect where these agents would bring that entire loop engineering angle into it, where it would act, and it would also reason.
It should also happen in split seconds.
Yeah.
So again, models plays a vital role there, and those optimizations that we are talking about. So if you're picking the complete DOM, maybe it doesn't make sense to pick the complete DOM. If you do a base source, it might give 10 pages previously as well on certain applications, which is a huge chunk, right? So we can pick some of the optimizations we did is the interactable elements alone, right? Which is going to be super faster, and see if the state of the application is already there for interactions.
And I think these are some. I mean, a lot of questions that are coming up is something that we need to solve.
That has nothing to do with Appium MCP.
It does. It has nothing to do with Appium MCP, nor it has anything to do with Claude or any of these agents. Because the nature of these agents is like, hey, you give me a driving force for me to navigate any of these mobile devices, I will do. Today we're talking about a driving force, which is Appium MCP. Tomorrow the driving force can be anything else. It doesn't really matter, right? But now, how that is being driven is very important from a memory angle, right? I think in next few minutes we'll talk about all of those context engineering practices we have put into build AppClaw, and where AppClaw uses Appium MCP itself under the hood, and how we are leveraging Appium MCP, right? So maybe you can grab some of those ideas in and around over here. So if you see here, the documentation gets even more simpler and easier as well in these angles. So you could go ahead, just put down some of the issues that you might be seeing or you might want to use in Appium, but we don't know how to do that. Maybe it would basically go across all the documentations and bring that answer out through us from a dragged chunk perspective, right? Okay, cool. So what is next that we are going to see, Srini?
Cool. Maybe a question quickly.
One more question. Okay,
yeah,
let's take that.
So for iOS device tests, how does using a dedicated WebdriverAgent MCP server, the one that we built, okay, probably. Dedicated WebdriverAgent MCP server to automate Xcode building and provisioning signatures, profiles, eliminates the classic manual provisioning failures through CI/CD.
Very good question. Probably, I'm just thinking how better to represent this and answer right for us. So, okay, so I can put this way, right? So all that is needed. This is what we are talking about, that prepare. One of the tools that we have is like, you prepare the WebDriver agent, right? So what basically happens is to build an IPA. So IPA is basically just a simple test server, right? If you go ahead and do this entire Xcode building in your pipeline, like in your CI/CD before you run your tests, one is going to take time, of course. And second is you might, if things are not being configured rightly from your provisioning profile, your mobile provisioning and all that stuff, you might end up with failures, right? So the approach that we have taken in a lot of our open source projects, and we recommend the community always, is pre-build the entire IPA, right? And how do you want to sort of do that? It's one-time activity. Yeah. So you comment, we already have those tools. We have CLIs even within 𝐒𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐢𝐯 driver today. All that you do is you build an IPA once, right? It need not even exist within your entire test code. It can be outside your test code, right? So ideally, that means as a pre-step, like a prep, right? In one of your CI stages, you just say, hey, prep the IPA for me, right? And you don't have to even prep it every time, right? Because it's just one-time activity. Maybe whenever you only update the 𝐒𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐢𝐯 driver, maybe there's a new version of iOS coming in, so you see there's an update from Appium, you go ahead and do that, right? Otherwise, it's always a one-time activity, not even for your recurring test, probably a month or until you go ahead and update your 𝐒𝐤𝐢𝐳, right? So you can build an IPA file once and just tell Appium that I've already pre-built it, right? So there are capabilities over here. So I think this is a good thing. We should ask this, right?
There are a lot of pre-built stuff.
So we can see this, right?
Ask about.
I already have the WD IPA pre-built, and what are the capabilities? What are the capabilities we need to use to get this working? And I want to avoid the entire Xcode signing. Let's see what it says.
Cool. Meanwhile, one more question.
Uh-huh.
Let it run.
Okay.
So, what's the biggest latency bottleneck when an AI agent uses MCP to step through debug a live Appium session on a physical device?
Okay.
I would say it's much faster than probably a human would do.
Yeah.
In most of the cases.
I'm also looking through it in a different angle, right?
Latency of using agents with this Appium MCP server.
Yeah, I mean, that way we going and debugging a lot of these things manually would definitely take a lot of time. But the MCP and these agents coming into play, definitely it's even more faster. Okay, it's still doing. There you go. It brought us the answer for us. Right. See, it says that we'll leave all of this. Okay, I think it's just told what it does internally. So we'll leave all of that. I think the important angle is this, right? It says even more hands-off is attached to the WDA you run yourself. This is even more very cool and faster. This part, which we are seeing here, right? And that means you have the IPA, you invoke the IPA, and just tell Appium that hey, I already have a WebDriver agent running, and I'm going to like simply go ahead and use that. And if you don't want to do that, there are also other ways like pre-built WDA capabilities, and also use pre-built WDA plus the derived data part. So you see, it does give us those answers to the questions as well, right? And in detail.
There's one relevant question as well. Maybe we should take that down.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. How does the system handle certificate expiry, reinstalling these WebDriver agents on the device?
Okay.
So
from a certificate expiry angle, if you have a free Apple account, the expiry is 7 days. If you have an enterprise account, of course, it's 1 year, right? And second is if it expires and it fails to launch the WebDriver agent as in such, it would just remove it and it will start to try to rebuild it, right? In this case, even if it tries to rebuild it, it's going to still fail. So that's where that entire signing certificates is as a user, it's our responsibility, because it doesn't know that it's a valid certificate or invalid certificate, right? So we have to give a valid certificate. There's no way that Appium MCP or Appium out of the box would fetch that for us. So it's our duty to give that as a preceded data.
So question is also about re-signing for WebDriver agent across long-running decisions.
What re-sign? So because re-signing is one time, right? Yes. For you. You just re-sign the WebDriver agent, install it, and it's just running as a server. Whether your session is, let's say it's like for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, it doesn't matter, right? Because it's just a server for you. And however it is, it's going to just run for us. Right.
Cool. Maybe we can
take one more before we move.
Okay. Did you try local llama models to use with Appium MCP? What requirements and models can be a working solution?
Okay.
So we did try quite a few models, and there are a lot of best models available on commercial space. But in terms of good reasoning on the open models that are available, probably
Gemma 4, Qwen
is amazing.
Qwen with 27 billion we tried. Yeah. It does excellent job. Gemma 4 does an excellent stuff.
Vision as well. Qwen does amazing job.
Yeah. Qwen 3.7 does a good job. 3.5 does a good job. But the only difference we saw is we tried it out in our Mac Pro 64 M5 Pro, with a 64 gig memory, and running these models were so slower compared to like Srini said, right, the hosted ones. Like for example, we would get the response from Gemini, let's say Gemini Flash, like in less than 2 seconds. But whereas in our local models that we have tried, maybe 7 to 8 seconds.
It all depends on the model,
the machine.
Maybe we should pick a right machine from run bar.
Correct. It's definitely doable. Okay. So let's jump into the next one, Srini, and then we can again come back to the questions. We have a lot of questions more, right? Okay. So now let's see why we needed to build an agent on top of Appium MCP. Even though there are other agents like Claude Code, we have Cursor, there are so many other agents, right? So why did we choose to build another one on one for us, right? So I have it open here. So fairly, the website itself is a documentation, right? So Srini, let's run through some of the important aspects over here.
Yes, very true. Is we would like to build an agent that consumes lesser tokens, and reliability is one other factor.
Yeah.
So doesn't take screenshots a lot and then just bump models and then comes back with fewer response or poor quality responses as well.
Hang on, you made a very interesting statement. We wanted to always have lesser token consumption, but how did we achieve that in Appium? I think that's the part we have to tell you, right?
So as I said initially, we did a lot of optimization when it comes to screenshot, lesser quality, again, not the most degraded one, less quality, enough one that we can pick and send it. And this context that you can provide it upfront. So we do have something called app guides that helps agents to take better decisions. For example, let's say you have a mobile app and it doesn't have it has a feature that is hidden, like how Gmail has the archive, for example, right? We have been using Gmail, so we know that. What if your mobile app has certain features that agent may not be aware of, right? So it does perform certain actions, tries to understand where is that feature exists. So it burns a lot of tokens and burns a lot of time as well, right? So what if you give better instructions that educates the agent and says these are the features I have, and probably in a very high level that this feature is available here on this particular screen, and you have to do it probably hard swipe so that archive exists. Right.
Do you also want to show how one of those guides look like, Srini?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just go in and just go to the GitHub. It's open source, so you can find it on AppClaw. Go ahead, when you like it, just give it a star. That's one good way where we can support the community. So I'm going to show you how the app guides would look like. So we do have some sample app guides for references that we have added. So let's say I just picked anyone random. I don't know what we have. A very simple MD file, right? To say, hey, tap a pin card, directions, choose, and that's where you can basically start. So if we don't give this app guide aspect, eventually what would happen is
it's going to search. It's going to take probably DOM. If you're running it in DOM mode, it's going to take those in DOM and then figure out, of course, it may be in the DOM, but it may not be visible. So it's trying to click archive, which is not there visible or not there interactable area.
And it's going to keep exploring, right? Because it doesn't know where that feature is existing. So it's going to try, it's going to scroll down, it's going to go left, go right. It'll just keep trying multiple options, and again, you're going to burn a lot of tokens there as well.
So we do context compaction. Of course, you may ask, context compaction, a lot of agents do now. We don't have to do /compact on our own, right? So we do that natively. So it does decides on its own when it has to chunk the irrelevant ones on its own context and keeps whatever required for it to continue, right? That's one. And next is episodic memory. This is one of the important stuff when it comes to building an agent, right? So it takes care of those semantic fingerprints that match a screen across several runs and builds that memory over a period of time. And then it's also give confidence in terms of the finding those elements and so on. And for example, once it identified those elements, it's going to take that snapshot of what is available, what are those locators, and it can keep those in a specific memory, as like how Claude can keep it in that Claude / blah 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 / memory. It's going to keep the memory that is relevant and required for subsequent execution for your own mobile app that it has ran on that specific memory. And negative cache. Let's say I tried multiple steps and failed. It's going to keep that failure so it doesn't do the same failure or doesn't do the same mistake again, right? So likewise, we followed a lot of context engineering principles, not just 1, 2, 3. So we have done quite a few good work. Probably there is anything that we could do better. Feel free to raise a pull request. We are happy to do accept pull request and it's open source. Code is available. Anything that is something that we could improve, we are always happy to accept that.
And also, the proximity selector locators,
Yes.
which is something which is required, and we support both vision and DOM. So even from a DOM perspective, we have sort of done it to our best. There could be some really crazy DOM elements on certain screens which we don't know, right? And that's where if you try something is not happening, raise issues. It could possibly be something on the retrieval from the Appium MCP itself, so we can go there and fix, or it can be on our side as well, right? So also we have our own runners here, so that this will help you, run parallel tests across, so you don't need additional plugins. So we also have our own AppClaw runner. Of course, this has been inspired by the Playwright CLI runner. So the inspiration of this runner for a mobile specific comes a lot from Playwright, because Playwright's done a fantastic job when it comes to the Playwright runner for the browsers, right? But when it comes to mobile, there are other additional information that is required for like device name, device state, device health, and so many other things. And that's where we thought, bringing that capability of a specific runner itself would, sort of help people not to again additionally see how to run these tests across clouds and across devices. So we also do support running AppClaw in TestMu AI cloud as well, and we do a lot of those things. So we can possibly see one good example, Srini, what it does. Right. I'll leave that. Maybe Srini is going to leave the URL for you of the GitHub in the chat, so you can go reference it, give it a star, share it with people as well. Right. Okay, let's go back again and look through one example. Right. So I don't need
So one thing that I would like to highlight as we navigate is we have used the same MCP server with different CLIs available and different agents available, and we have seen compared the cost, in terms of tokens consumed with, for example, same AppClaw can also be a CLI as part of AppClaw, Cloud Code consumed a lot more tokens than AppClaw in itself running those specific goal on your mobile app.
Yeah,
right. So, and that was also possible due to multiple context engineering principles like web guides, injection state, stack detection, episodic memory, context compaction, verification, and having a feedback loop internally built in. So all those help us, and if there is anything that we can do better, is always we can use it.
So I just went into the playground. So we have playground. We also have a way of a Node SDK that you can use it to run them in your automated, in your CIs. We also have a CLI as well. So I'm just going to quickly show you some playground stuff, what we have. So I just said open Vodka app, and I'm going to say click on the login button, below the password field, right? And it did, and I'm going to say click on the vertical swiping, right? Okay, and very simple, I could say scroll down.
I thought it was scroll up.
Srinivasan always gets confused. Scroll up, scroll down. So I'm going to go down, right? So I'm going to say scroll down 3 times. I'm not sure if this is, I don't remember the syntax. Let's try. Until, what is there down? I don't know.
Java.
Oh, some karma is there. Until karma text is visible. Let's try this.
Okay, we are running it in
so we
vision mode.
Yeah, we did once. So verdict is it's not visible. So finally it came in, right? So which is good. So eventually I gave it like 3 times it should run. So we did all this, right? No, I've got.
So you could see that seconds that it has taken as well. 2 seconds for clicking a login button, and 2 seconds for clicking the vertical swipe, which is on the next screen.
And also this is very cool. I'm going to see this, right? I'm
all on vision though.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to say what are the elements in the list visible, right? So this could be pretty useful when we are trying to do assertions in our tests, right? So then I'm going to simply say, hey, I want to preview the test that I basically wrote, right? And that's going to give you a pretty cool test as a TS with an entire flow. Oh, this is there, and I basically also want to export it. bang on. You have the file exported and you can simply go ahead and run them. So as simple as that. The documentation has a lot of those things that you could go ahead and refer. Srini, did you put that in?
Yes.
You did. Okay, Srini's already put that in the chat. Go ahead, give it a star, share it to the community. If you feel there's any issues that you think we need to address, come back to us. We're more than happy to pick that up and work on it. Okay, so I think that's more that we wanted to talk and share about. And I think we can take some more questions, right, Srini?
Yes.
Okay, let's do some more questions in now.
Cool. So the next one is, can the Appium MCP interface directly read crash logs from connected physical devices or hardware, or is it strictly limited to software UI layers?
No, absolutely not. It can read your logs from ADB real devices.
So everything that is possible for an Appium to do, you can do it through Appium MCP as well. Yes. So if you don't find that ADB log extraction or Appium log extraction in Appium MCP, probably raise a pull request.
Yeah. But definitely, it's possible. It's doable. It should be there. If it's not there, we will get that in as well.
Yeah. So I'll take the first question that was there.
Okay.
So could MCP based Appium automation eventually move mobile testing from predefined test cases towards autonomous exploration, and what could be required to make that ready? I think we answered this.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next one. How do we decide when an AI agent has earned enough trust to move from making recommendations to taking autonomous actions, right? So I would say, as like how you write your automated tests, driver dot find element, blah blah blah. Probably if you use AppClaw, you would just use launch login application. There are two ways. One is deterministic, executing those deterministic states. And two is it takes its own decision and then navigates it through is, right? So just say, as like how you would instruct or how you would use your mobile app, give the some instructions, then AppClaw will do that specific instruction. It doesn't do anything on its own, right? So that makes it easier, right?
How well does Appium MCP handle debugging native desktop applications compared to standard iOS or Android mobile apps? Right now we don't have that support, and also debugging these native desktop applications has always been a big question mark with Appium itself on a whole. The whole reason being is because if it's Mac drivers, it's there, but we don't have the support. But again, when it comes to Windows, again, Microsoft took it, no one's maintaining it, and I think there is a new driver which is called as Nova driver. But as a part of Appium MCP, we are only more focused right now, on the mobile app space. That's where we feel more people are utilizing the thing. I think we can take another two more questions, really.
So if you use AppClaw's AI agent to generate, or let me publish it.
Yeah.
So if we use AppClaw's AI agent to generate or discover a test case, for example, a complete login or create assert workflow, can the generated test be saved? I thought it will come up, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So if you use AppClaw's AI agent to generate or discover a test case, for example, a complete login or create asset workflow, can that generated test be saved, exported as deterministic test that we can execute later without invoking AI?
That's a very good question, right? So what we do is, I think that's what we last showed. So you could do that and export it. And once you export it, if you have the DOM level at it, so we also do, from the context engineering angle, when Srini spoke about the episodic memory, that's where we also have something called as trajectories, right? We have local caching as well. So these locators that it reads, it goes stores in your local. So the next time when it run, it will not go make any LLM calls. It will run locally with those cache picked. And if it fails, that's the time it will go back to the LLM to look through. Is there a different locator it has failed? If it can't, it will just fail there. So definitely that's doable. Okay, one last question. We'll just see if there's anything the best that we can pick out of it.
There's something on Flutter. Do you want to talk about it?
Where is that?
Okay, let me publish
Yeah, you can publish. Okay, this publish is taking a little time, but I'll just read it out. In a Flutter application with a virtualization infinite scrolling list, the element I'm looking for isn't initially present in the Appium UI hierarchy. Okay, the element is not there in the viewport. After scrolling, new elements appear and others disappear. Okay, with Appium MCP, can the agent dynamically inspect the hierarchy after each scroll, determine whether the target exists, and continue scrolling until it finds it? If yes, what would be the recommended architecture for making this reliable and performant across both Android and iOS? Okay. The question is something that we always see as a problem, and we have seen this as a problem, right? Appium MCP as a whole, like how we are saying, on its own, it's not an agent, right? It's not smart enough. It's just tools. So it give you access to certain things that we want to drive it. And that last example which we showed with AppClaw, where I said, hey, scroll down until you find the karma as a text, right? So that's where the agentic brain comes in, right? So who will do the scrolling for me? Appium will do the scrolling for me, the MCP. But who's going to decide whether it needs to scroll further or the element is present? That's the agent. So there are two different responsibilities over here, right? So it's definitely doable, but it's just that you need to instruct these agents, and the agent should basically do that.
And the maximum number.
And the maximum scrolls. So this is just going to go infinite, right? And in some of these aspects, this is where we wanted to build our own agent, which is more focused and structured of bringing some of these angles in the right way. It's definitely doable in that. And that's what we saw in AppClaw as well. Right?
And this struct loop detection can also be auto-triggered by AppClaw on its own. It's configurable as well.
I know we have like so many questions, which is pretty cool and interesting. And sadly, we have almost ran out of time. So thank you so much, folks, for sticking around. I really love the questions. And we're going to take back a lot of from these questions and to see if we can start to implement some of that in Appium MCP as well. Thanks for coming to our session. It's good that we loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Srini and Sai, for that insightful and hands-on session and for answering most of the questions. So definitely watching plain English turning into an executable APM test and seeing how 2MCP communicates was truly amazing. And I'm sure everyone here is excited to try that MCP APM server in their own projects. And to our amazing audience, thank you for joining the session. A quick reminder for all the attendees that all the sessions are being recorded and will be shared with you via the email. And they will also be available on the TestMu AI's YouTube channel later. Do share your favorite moment or the key learnings from this session and on the social media by using the hashtag TestMuConf so that we can select the winners and give away the prizes. Thank you once again for joining us. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.